We've all heard that life is a game, and we've all heard that there are NPCs, non-playing characters, and all these things. But even people who realize that life is a game are usually stuck. And this is the thing that I've been researching. Why is there so many people who are aware of life as a game, that you can actually choose what you want to do, you can choose your character, but still they are stuck? It's like they are driving a car into the wall, they don't have a reverse, and they don't know what to do, so they just keep on banging against the wall. Well, you need to get out of the car. You're playing the wrong game. While I was doing research and thinking about this problem that so many people are stuck and so many people are unfulfilled even when they're aware they don't want to be in the place they're at. And I came to a conclusion that there are three main obstacles that people usually struggle with, and sometimes it's all three of them, sometimes it's just one of them. And after this video is done, you will know if you have some of these obstacles and how you can actually overcome them. Let's start with the first one, and that is limiting belief. It's conditioning. It's things that have affected you from an external source. It's the decisions that you have made to be true. You have decided that some beliefs are true and some are not. And this can be your parents, it can be society, it can be religion, it can be the educational system. Whatever it is, it's a limiting belief, and you think that you need to do what you're currently doing and that there's no other way to live life than going to work for someone else or living in a certain area or doing things just the way you are doing it right now. Luckily, this is quite an easy problem to tackle because it's all in your mind. To be even more specific, it's in your subconscious mind. This is where our beliefs are stored, and your subconscious mind is responsible for like 85% of your thoughts and actions daily. So when you become aware that these beliefs are just decisions that you have made earlier in your life that you thought were true, then you can start to rewire them. You can do meditations, you can do hypnosis, you can do journaling, you can take action in a new way, and that way you will actually start to rewire your brain. The problem with this that I've seen is that a lot of people are afraid to actually change because of the external sources that are telling them how they are supposed to live and what they are supposed to do. This becomes an emotional problem because you're not actually afraid of what they tell you or how they react. You are afraid of what you might feel when they do that. You might feel ashamed, you might feel guilty, you might get angry, you might get sad, and you're avoiding that feeling, and that's why you choose suffering instead of changing your life and disappointing the other people. Because let's be honest, we are all guilty of pleasing others and thinking about their emotions, especially our parents or our peers, our friends, or even the society. But when you think about it, it's like, why do you choose them over you? And when you realize that you need to take care of yourself first in order to feel fulfilled, and then you can start to help others. Let's move on to the second obstacle that is really common why people won't change their life. This can be a tougher problem to solve, and usually it may be a longer process, and that is trauma. And just to brief you quickly, trauma can be acute trauma, like one event, or it can be a chronic trauma, something that happens over time. it may even have a connection with limiting beliefs, but trauma is usually some kind of split in the psyche and some kind of negative emotion that gets stored because it's not safe to feel them. Because when we are kids, we have to depend on our parents, or we have to just fit in to the society because it's in our genes to not leave our tribe, because in the old days that would mean death to us. So we kind of adapt to our environment, and that sometimes creates trauma. And the way you get over trauma is more about finding a safe space, finding a therapist or psychotherapist, a coach or something who can help you to identify the trauma, bring awareness into it, and then have a safe place where actually you can share it and you can feel those feelings that you suppressed and put aside when that trauma actually happened. And when you feel it, to heal it, that's when the progress starts, and you kind of get to empty the cup of those negative things, and that's when you can start to go in a new direction, play a different game in life, and be more fulfilled. And yes, I know trauma is not an easy thing to chew and to kind of get over. I made a video earlier that is specifically about trauma and how I healed my trauma and got over it without medication or even therapy. And I think trauma is mostly about trust. And when we start to trust the unknown, and the unknown becomes something positive, that's when we are on a good path again. Because trauma usually means that we can't trust the unknown. There's something, if it's a surprise, we think it's bad. And that's trauma in a sense. We believe that the unknown is bad. There's going to be something bad happen to us because in the past, that's what happened. And there is also a kind of shortcut for releasing trauma, and that is through somatic exercises like breath work. It can be plant medicine, it can be TRE, that is like this shaking thing. But either way, you need to realize that all trauma can be transcended. And once you start believing that, that's the hardest step. That's the first step. And when you believe that you can heal your trauma, you are on your way, and it's gonna eventually start to heal. But sometimes even when people heal, they choose to stay in the same traumatic game, in the same traumatic environment. And that is because we humans get addicted to things really easily. And sometimes it's just the comfort zone we have. Even if we're suffering, we stay there because the suffering, in a sense, is safe. Sometimes we realize this and we're like, we need to get out, but then the ego defenses, the trauma comes and hey, no, don't go out of the safe zone. We're already scared. We cannot take this risk. And that's why people still, even if they heal their trauma, they might be in the same story, the same identity that the trauma happened to. And that's why they're not brave enough to step out of the comfort zone and actually leave the old game behind and start to play a new game that once again will make them more fulfilled. And then we get to the last one, number 3 of the obstacles that I've found that people have when it comes to changing up the game and changing up their life to have a more optimistic direction that is gonna bring more fulfillment in their life. This is basically when you've taken on too many responsibilities that you may not even have wanted in the first place. You may have a marriage, you may have a house mortgage, you may have kids, you may have dogs, you may have all these different responsibilities that tie you to that certain life situation, that certain game in your life. And this can be tricky to get out of too. It requires a lot of awareness of what you actually want and what the cost is of leaving some old things behind. And this is where we come to values. We need to evaluate what is more important. Is it more important for us to feel good and be fulfilled, or is our fulfillment and purpose in doing those things that we have chosen to actually get involved in, and then staying in that situation and finding more purpose in that? This is totally up to you and how you value yourself and what is the boundaries you set for yourself in life. From personal experience, I know that I've tried to avoid this third step for all my life, and that's why I have actually chosen to live a life of freedom and not get a mortgage, not do things that would kind of root me down in a certain situation that I might later regret. But I know that there's so many people who do that. They dream of traveling, but they have a crazy job and all kinds of hobbies and things that tie them down to this old life, but then still they are unfulfilled. And it's always about balance with these things. But the thing that truly lights your heart on fire, even if you can't do it right now, maybe you should start planning on it. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, then I'm gonna do this, and you have all set up to actually get out of that life. Because sometimes we need to kind of sacrifice the moment, or even if it's a year or 6 months, whatever, for the greater thing that we know that we want. But it's really crucial to accept that we're not satisfied where we are now, and that we long for something else, and that we actually start taking the smallest action towards that. Because as I've said in the 2 earlier problems, the conditioning and the people and the limiting beliefs and traumas, all these can play a part of creating this situation when you are rooted somewhere that you don't want to be. So now you know the 3 biggest obstacles that usually hinder people from changing up the game that they're playing. Because think about reality as the big game, but there are layers to the game, and there are even people who play games inside of the game, and even gamers who play inside of that game. So it's this continuum of different layers of games. Once you realize that, oh, I'm in this game, and you realize that there are layers above and below, you can start to choose consciously with awareness where you actually want to go. If you are serious about changing up the game, changing up your life, and actually going after more fulfillment, I'm currently still having a few spots open for my one-on-one coaching. You can apply below. There's all the details when you click on that link. Other than that, there is one more obstacle that a lot of us don't see coming, and it's something called the Solomon's paradox. And that is, it's easy to read the label when you're outside the bottle, but we as humans, when we are inside the bottle, we don't know what to do. We don't know what our problems are because we are too close to see them. If you feel that that is you, I made a video specifically on Solomon's paradox and how to solve it. You can click and watch it here.